Hello there, my name is Lori Elke and welcome to my channel, Elke Art. Today we are doing a project for the season of Lent, and I wanted to do some negative watercolor painting with the crown of thorns. And so what I did was, it's basically a technique where you use layering of color over and over until you get the depth that you're looking for in your painting. So this is my little example here. I also used wax paper to get the different texture that you see. That's just kind of an added bonus if you want to go for texture. But yeah, you can see the layers. We've got like a light layer, a medium layer, a darker layer, and then the background is the darkest. And it's kind of a cool way just to kind of build up those layers, to practice that with a watercolor, and then also to practice painting around the positive shape, which is why it's called negative painting. So try this out and let me know how it goes. I ended up even turning it because I thought I kind of liked it this way too. You can see I added a little bit of the blood from Jesus wearing the crown of thorns, and then you could even add text like on the bottom if you wanted to, using like a white marker or something like that. So kind of a neat project, a meaningful project that you can try for the season of Lent. Thanks so much for watching. If you're enjoying these videos, please hit that like button and subscribe down below. For this project, I am using wax paper from my kitchen. I also have a 5x5" watercolor paper that I got from Hobby Lobby. It's Master's Touch. It's 140 pound, and I have it taped down to a board. I'm using Shinhan Pro Watercolors, and right now a 1" flat brush. And as you can see, I'm getting my paper wet first with just clean water. And then I'm going to add some golds and some browns into my water so that it kind of adds some color all around my picture. Now I'm trying not to brush too much. I just want to kind of get the color on there and let it sit. I don't want it to blend too much either. It kind of looks better if you've got a couple of different shades of color, different things on your paper. And right now I'm mostly using yellow ochre and then a little bit of burnt sienna, which is a reddish brown. Once you have color all over the paper, then all you have to do is put the wax paper down and make sure that it connects to the paper. It's okay if there are some bubbles in there, like you can see, and let it dry. I went ahead and let it dry. You can see it added some kind of wrinkles and things like that to my paper, but that's totally cool. Next, I'm going to make the main curve of the crown of thorns. And I'm starting by going all the way from the top to the bottom, making a curved line with my pencil and doing a second line right next to it. And then from those lines, I'm going to add some spikes, and you can kind of do a couple closer together, a couple farther apart. It helps to make them kind of on the larger end. And I'm just kind of changing up the direction that they go so that I have them kind of coming out in different directions here and there. I'm adding lots of spikes all the way around the line, and now I'm going to do some negative painting. So negative painting is basically painting around the positive shape that I just drew. So I just drew my main lines there from the top to the bottom and added spikes. Those are my positive shapes. Everything else would be a negative shape. And I'm taking a round brush and painting around all of the negative shapes, or all of the positive space on my paper. And this time I did not get my paper wet ahead of time. I'm still using some yellow ochre and some burnt sienna, and I'm just kind of filling in around my
thorns with my watercolor paper or paint. And I'm going to do that until the whole area gets filled with paint. And you can see that as I paint around my positive shapes, they kind of pop forward and everything else goes backward with the darker value. I'm trying to paint a value that is a little bit darker than what is already on the paper. Now, if you want to, you can just leave this as is and let it dry. Or if you are really liking the effect of the wax paper, you can put it on top of this as well and try to get more of that texture coming through. As I am finishing up with this layer of paint, I'm going to go ahead and try putting my wax paper on again. You can use the same piece. And I'm just going to push it down. It should connect with any areas that are still wet. You have to kind of work quickly so that you catch it before it dries. And then let it dry under the wax paper, and you can see new texture has been added to the piece. Now I'm going to take my pencil and add another strand of the crown, and I'm going to do that just by adding another thick line. This time it's going to kind of weave underneath the first one, so you can kind of see that. And just like I did last time, I'm going to add some thorns on that one. And this one is underneath the one that I first drew, so as I draw the thorns on this one, I'm kind of putting them under the thorns that were already there. Now I've sped up this process so that you can get the idea, but just like I did last time, I'm going to paint around the positive space with another layer of paint. This time I'm getting darker than the previous layer so that I have another value shown. I decided I needed one more thorn in there, so I went ahead and added that in, painting around that as well. Now, so far it's pretty similar to what I already have until I run into my second layer, and then I'm painting around that one as well. So I'm painting around my first and second layer of drawing that I have done for this crown of thorns. I'm making sure to kind of be real careful with my edges and make them pretty dark, kind of right next to the lines. That kind of helps the lines come forward even more. And I'm just going to put the wax paper down right away so that I don't have to worry about it drying too fast on me. I'm going to do the same thing to this side, painting around my first layer and my second layer of drawing. And I'm making my value a little bit darker than the one before so that you can see a difference in the values. I should have a light and a medium and a darker value so far on my picture. And again, I'm using my little round brush to kind of paint around each one of those spikes so that I'm covering up all of the background with this next value. Once I have finished painting in all of the areas around my second drawing, I can put wax paper on, and then I will have to let it dry again. All right, I let that dry, and you can see I added a little bit of extra texture. And now I'm going to make a third layer underneath these. So you can kind of decide maybe where there's an area that's kind of missing some thorns or some texture. I wanted a little bit more curve so that it looked like a crown and not just two random spiky vines. So I'm kind of adding a little bit more curve to this one to make it so that it's more of a crown, or the side of a crown. And then again, just going through and adding the spikes under the ones that are already there, kind of using it to fill in, but you can have them kind of overlap or overlayer each other as well. And just like I did before, I will continue to add another layer of paint. This time it must be darker than the layers that I had used previously. So at this point, instead of just the burnt sienna, I'm also using this reddish brown color that came with my watercolor set. You could also mix like a brown and a purple. That would look really good. Something to go darker. If you wanted to even go all the way into like black, or you could do brown and blue, which makes kind of a dark gray. Any of those would work to make this nice, rich value. And it's important though that this value is even darker than what we had used before. So I'm going in and making sure that it's nice and dark and rich. And I'm going around all three layers of my drawing now with this nice, dark, rich color. I will go ahead and finish this up and let it dry before I take the wax paper off. And here you have what it looks like. I even decided maybe it would look better to turn it this way, and you can see I've added just a little bit of blood on the inside. You can also add text to the bottom. I used the passage, "By his wounds we are healed." Thanks so much for watching.